Is your commercial wine cellar not cooling enough? Or is fogging on your unit ruining the aesthetic of your cellar? Commercial wine cellar? Isn't a regular residential wine cellar cooling unit enough? What exactly is a commercial wine cellar, and how is it different from a residential wine cellar cooling unit?
Well, typically, commercial cellars often will have more door openings per day, more people inside the wine cellar looking for bottles, more people restocking a higher number of bottles. And the lighting, typically in a restaurant setting or commercial setting, the lighting's more continuous. So for all those relevant determinations, they all need to be considered when trying to figure out which unit would be selected and installed. For more showpieces, single pane glass could be an issue in humid locations, meaning that if the ambient dew point of the adjacent space in front of the wine cellar is higher, if the dew point of the adjacent space is higher or significantly higher, condensation is going to form and the glass will fog. It's typically not enough BTUs, meaning it's undersized. Or in the example of the glass fogging, if there's any air that blows directly onto the glass, fog will occur, condensation, just because of the dew point on the outside of the wine cellar and the lower dew point on the inside. For example, if you have a ceiling unit, you want the supply to blow away from the glass towards the back of the cellar or the side where there's no glass, and the return to be favorably on the side where the glass is. Otherwise, the condensation will occur. Well, commercial cellars most often have to run ducted units since the capacity and the BTU needed to cool them is high. Ductwork to the locations can be a tough situation since most of the time the units are being kept further or installed away from the cellar. And at the same time, if a split system is used, the evaporator can be buried and make it difficult to service in the future. And, one of the things that, a restaurant owner or commercial space owner who's building a wine cellar, when they're hiring a HVAC or refrigeration company, they really want to select one that's going to service the system in the future for those reasons. And in most renovation situations where the building's older and possibly historic, you have a lot of cast iron piping running through the ceiling and the joists and cross bracing. And so that is the biggest challenge, I think, in trying to figure out which unit would be installed and where. It just seems to me that because they're working a lot more and probably a little bit harder because of all the restocking, the door openings and all of that, to try to get the amount of air changes in there. Wine Guardian recommends 5 air changes per hour for that reason, to help maintain the relative humidity and the cooling. So whether it's commercial or residential, because in a residential wine cellar, they may have a party, and so the doors open as much as a commercial space or what have you. And so proper R value insulation is taken into consideration along with the the standard 5 air changes per hour. So most large projects like commercial storage, not showpieces, will need to run multiple units to achieve the 5 air exchanges per hour. The higher that value within this range, the better a unit's going to be able to manage the heat load changes, such as opening the doors or restocking the cellar. That's really personal preference. The ones that I've done have all been connected onto one, only because you want all the lights to come on at the same time, the same temperature and humidity. There's a remote sensor that basically, if you have multiple areas, like let's just say 4 cooling units where 2 are 1 ton self-contained units and then 2 half-ton self-contained units, or all 4 of those have remote sensors that all get connected into one, and that way you get readings from all parts of the wine cellar. Well, I would think that, like, for example, if you had wine wall storage and walk-in area next to that, like at the Wolfgang Puck restaurant and the Rosewood Hotel, that one did have, in fact, 4 units, the self-contained units that supplied a total of A through I, A, B, C, I think it's 9 separate areas. Two of them had a serving temperature option so that Wolfgang wanted to be able to serve his wines at 45 degrees. So two of the wine walls had the serving temperature option. And then another example would be where you would want to have them on separate controls or switches is in different temperatures for whites as opposed to reds. You may want your reds at 62 and your whites at 55. So that would be another personal decision that the owner would want to make, but those options are available. So, as I mentioned, most HVAC companies can perform the installations fine, so long as the wine cellar was planned out properly, and ensuring that before they hire them, that they'll commit to servicing the unit in the future and have a hand in that. From my experience, most HVAC companies have not had experience installing these, and just working with a professional wine cellar builder would be recommended because I get calls asking why their space isn't being cooled properly. And when I run the numbers and all of the indices and find out that they needed a higher BTU system or the wrong unit was selected. So it's just real important to be connected with a wine cellar builder that can help them with that.
Make sure you have the right cooling units and installation in place by using a professional commercial wine cellar builder from the start of your wine cellar. Call us today.